This is it, everybody. After Beardo's lazy butt took 2 years to reach this point, today marks our final weapons video for all of the Don't Starve games. Now, Hamlet weapons may be limited in actual technical numbers, as we'll soon discover, but they pack a punch to make up for it, for sure. So from literal firearms, the things that simply go pew, it's time to slice, bonk, and magnify. And trust me, that last part will make sense later. But for now, let's stick to bonking stuff, and Don't Starve Hamlet here actually comes with an exclusive basher called the Cork Bat. It's a dirt cheap and highly accessible melee weapon that unfortunately has a few issues going for it. For one thing, it only offers 20 uses total. For another, there is a built-in delay between attacks that leads to less hits during kiting patterns, of course, but throws off all timings, as what also doesn't help the thing is that we have to pause for a brief but noticeable moment after each hit, which is gonna lead to even more kiting problems. It's nothing to worry about for larger, slower mobs and or bosses, but if you're using a cork bat against something with a faster attack speed, you best be on your A game and ready to forfeit some hits for sure. Oddly enough, however, this delay is completely absent while using a cork bat on a boat, so make note there. Again, they're super easy to make, but they still might not be worth it at the end of the day. You'll have to decide yourself. But next up, the Halberd. Yet another accessible weapon choice if one knows how to turn iron into alloy effectively. But costing only 1 alloy and 2 twigs, a recipe that is kinda debatable, Halberds offer us 100 uses at 44.2 damage a chop. Nothing too spectacular, sure, but again, with how cheap they are, they can easily become a solid day-to-day weapon. Along with being craftable, note that halberds are a guaranteed drop from Royal Pit Guards, can act as an axe with all the same effectiveness as one, and that halberds are needed to craft additional watchtowers once we have the key to the city and access to the city planning tab. But that's not all, as halberds can also be bought from the Palace Islands Boar's Tusk weapon shop for 5 pig bucks, or gotten via secret bandit camps 16.67% of the time. As I said, they are very accessible, so use them well. Oh, but it's time for the weapon that folk just keep asking me about for some reason, the blunderbuss. Costing 2 boards, a 10-piece oink, or a centipiece if you happen to have one, and 1 gear, the blunderbuss can technically be used as an unlimited, low-damage melee weapon if you do so choose. However, loading it with gunpowder is where the true fun actually begins. I'm not too sure why so many people were so curious about this thing, as we kinda get what we craft. A literal gun that shoots gunpowder at range for 200 damage a shot. There's nothing fancy about it, beyond just not lighting your targets on fire and thus burning the loot, which is kinda nice. But hey, it's still one of the more fun things to use in all of Don't Starve, so we're gonna take it. And this might shock you folks, but that was it. That is all of Hamlet's non-character specific and or tool-like weapons it has to offer us. Like I said, limited but important. Wagstaff's frifocals are also something of the sort, as they counter the fog, help his blindness, and oh yeah, fire literal flaming balls of plasma at whatever we happen to look at. We can only get 10 shots with it though at 50 damage apiece, so most simply use these as replacement spectacles, as they only lose durability when we shoot stuff. But speaking of, word of warning, as if you use frifocals when wet, you will shock yourself twice in a row for 32 damage overall. And that's not great, especially when no amount of shockproof clothing will help at the end of the day. Fry the locals, not yourself. Wheeler's Pneumatic Horn is next, and it might just be one of the greatest weapons we have ever seen. Even if it's only usable by her, and uncraftable mind you. But it's also a bit buggy nowadays. However, welcome to Don't Starve Hamlet, am I right? The thing occasionally refuses to load certain ammos, and might even eat full stacks of stuff if you try to load it by swapping ammo manually, so definitely make note there. But for the most part, the thing can be armed with literally anything you have. Some stuff, typically the rarer, less renewable things, deal a ton of damage as you can see, with basic resources still giving us a ranged spear essentially. An unlimited ranged spear I might add. But turn basic resources into refined versions or load it with poop and you'll be firing at 45 damage a pop at the very least. And that is very, very nice. And finally, Wormwood's Bramble Traps. Costing a living log and bee stingers, Bramble Traps are ranged teeth traps that deal a little less damage and can hurt players if they're not wearing bramble armor themselves. Honestly, they're pretty darn self-explanatory. But some of our stragglers and or runner-ups may not be. Like the magnifying glass. But hold up, Beard. The heck are you on about? I know. But I'm not talking about using a magnifying glass for its 10 uses at 4.25 damage a hit. I'm talking about using it as a passive weapon that freaks all the mants the heck out. To me, it is a special weapon exclusive to Hamlet with an offensive use that you might not think about, hence its inclusion. I also understand that both Coconades and the Cutlass Supreme are Don't Starve shipwrecked weapons. However, if you are only playing Hamlet without any connections to any of the other Don't Starve games, there is technically an exclusive way to still buy and use both of these things via the Boar's Tusk weapon shop for 20 and 50 oinks respectively. Now, Coconades get lit and thrown by us for a whopping 250 damage each at some crazy ranges, honestly. While the Cutlass is just a dark sword with no sanity penalties, plus a bit extra if you are fighting the shipwreck boss known as the Sealed NATO. Again, both, I think, were worth mentioning. These honorable mentions, however, are definitely debatable. But I already started the video with them and showed them in the thumbnail, so yeah. Machetes are highly prevalent in Hamlet though, so enjoy 100 to 400 uses at 29.92 damage a whack. Gold pants can give stuff a golden bonk 30 times over at 27.2 damage a hit. Stalking sticks are technically a 3-day, no durability weapon at 20.4 damage a hit. Shears can shear our enemies at 17 damage a hit for 20 hits total. Ball peen hammers won't be doing much hammering at a mere 10.2 damage and 10 uses overall. But lastly, the executive hammer here will slightly make up for it through unlimited uses at 17 damage a hit. Now, was it worth mentioning all these could be weapons? No, likely not. But I did, and it's over, so let's just wrap up the day, eh? There you have it, everyone. All of Don't Starve Hamlet's exclusive weapons and then some, just for good measure, and to make sure this video wasn't 2 minutes long. But thanks for watching, thanks for waiting for me to get my lazy butt to get here for 2 years. Arm up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.